Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Zone Blitz. As always, I'm Vince Miller, joined by my co-host Ashton Overholt. Ashton, how are you doing today?
Yeah, it's been a good day. Good day for sure. Funny things, the off season, and we're just kind of getting into it, and you realize how long it really is, and hopefully it'll go by fast. But man, this past weekend there was no college football to watch, and it was a struggle. Like the NFL, we watched a little bit of playoffs. I don't know if you did. I did watch a little bit of NFL playoffs, and it's man, that it was a struggle. Like I love college football, and yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference for me. So yeah, I think it's only 30 more Saturdays until we have it back.
Oh man,
Long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some coaching hires. Just really quickly. I don't know that we have to talk about it a lot, but some of the recent news: Kendall Briles, offensive coordinator of Arkansas, being hired by TCU to replace Garrett Riley. Any brief thoughts before we move on to some of the head coaching hires this offseason?
I think after TCU loses a guy like Riley to Clemson, Kendall Briles is, I mean, like that's almost as good as you can do. I think that was a good hire for TCU. In the long run, I think it'll still be a great hire, 3 years from now. I think that guy, he's called a really good offense at Arkansas. He's made KJ Jefferson kind of what he is. And TCU is going to have to rebuild a little bit. But like there's pieces and talent there for sure. But they will have to do some rebuilding. I think they'll do just fine. They might run a little bit more, but it will look cool. Briles has a cool looking run game. So yeah,
True.
no, I think it's a good hire. I really do. He's good at the fundamentals. Briles is like I think he's very smart, analytics based. But yeah, I'm a fan of it. I think it's a really good hire for TCU. They're kind of like punching above their weight right now. Like Kendall Briles is a guy that I would have seen like Alabama go for. Like if Alabama would have hired Kendall Briles, it's like, that's a good hire. Like I like that hire. Like awesome for them. And like TCU gets him. It's like, whoa. What are we doing? So no, good for them. That's awesome. Losing, you have to be able to replace guys. And TCU's finding that out. And they did excellent. I think it's a good hire.
Okay, let's just talk about some of the coaching hires this offseason. So a year ago, there was maybe the most ridiculous coaching cycle in our lifetime or in the history of college football, possibly.
It was, yes.
Yeah, and this year, not quite the same, but still a number of big names, a number of big jobs that came open. And I don't know that there's, like, we won't talk about all the Power 5 jobs, but let's kind of talk about a few of these. And we're kind of like going into this without a whole lot of prep as far as like a coaching grade. But I think sometimes just like your gut instinct on a coaching grade is almost the most accurate thing you can do. So let's just start with Auburn. So Auburn, arguably the biggest job that opened, and they hire Hugh Freeze from Liberty, who has success in the SEC in his past, and also has some other negative things in his past.
Yes.
What do you think about this hire? Like, I know you're a Georgia fan, so you kind of have that enemy perspective of Auburn, and I'm always interested by like what does the enemy of any school, like what do they want the other school to do? What scares them? What is like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, and I think you can learn a lot about a hire, or you can take it down to like individual game day coaching decisions. Like, what do the other side want you to do? And so, like, from your perspective as a Georgia fan, like, what are your thoughts on Hugh Freeze to Auburn?
Okay, so he definitely kind of outkicks his coverage a little bit from a quarterback perspective. Yeah. Like, he develops quarterbacks. Like, that's just a fact at this point. And he wins games. Now, is he a little slimy? Like, like that's a whole nother thing, man. Maybe, probably, I don't know. At Auburn, I'll be really honest. If he beats Alabama again, it doesn't even matter. Like this is the SEC, man. This is Auburn. They will sell their soul for a win against Alabama. That's just or Georgia, even at this point. That's kind of the fact of the matter. Auburn it's unfortunate for Auburn. I think because I have a soft spot in my heart for Auburn football. I like that place. It's a great program. It really is. It's an awesome university, and they're a football power, or normally a football power. But it has been very unfortunate that the arch rival to their left, which is Alabama, and the arch rival to the right, which was Georgia, are the powers in college football, like the dudes. And I think it's important to not. I don't know. This is sort of a whole nother conversation. Like there's a lot of layers to the onion, but there's oftentimes when your arch rival is having a lot of success, you start getting desperate. You do, and you start grasping at straws a little bit. And I hope that's not what it is with Auburn. I really do. I hope they're not just trying to grab something quick and get a quick result and cheat a little bit, take a shortcut. Because I think people do that. I think you're seeing that maybe a little bit with Florida right now with Jaden Rashada, like the whole thing, whoa, Miami's getting good and Georgia's winning national championships. Those are all right. Like we just have to spend whatever. Like we'll spend anything for a quarterback, and it turns out they don't have the money. I think Auburn is maybe doing that a little bit with Hugh Freeze. You're asking for a rating. I know I have to give a rating. It's very difficult. I'm gonna go. Hugh Freeze can coach football. He just really can. And as soon as Hugh Freeze got to Auburn, their recruiting class shot up. They started flipping guys.
Right.
And that's a big deal. Like that is a big deal. And so for that, I'm going to put him as a B, probably a B minus is going to be my final grade for him right now. I'll say a B minus because I think he wins football games. Like I think he's a good football coach. I wish he was a little bit more grounded. Let's just say I hope he's learned his lessons from the past.
Right.
That's all there really is to say. So because there's no doubt he can coach. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot there. I'll go B minus.
I'm a little disappointed. That's exactly what I came up with, which is kind of boring. But yeah, that's where I was too. I think he's. Like everything you said. Like he's a pretty good coach. Yeah. He's doing some pretty good things, recruiting both high schoolers. It's not easy being hired and then having like 2 weeks to come up with a signing class.
But he did a pretty good job.
And he did a pretty good job, and he's doing a pretty good job in the portal since then.
Right.
I don't think it's the best hire maybe that they could have made.
Well, yeah.
And we might talk about that later. But I think it's pretty solid. And there's definitely a way it works out. There's also there's a way that this ends with him being fired in 3 years with sanctions coming as he leaves. Like there is that possibility, I think.
He finished with the number 18 class. I think that's interesting. So inside the top 20, flipped Kyan Lee, like the high 4-star corner that was committed to Ohio State, flips him to Auburn. Like he's doing a few of the right things. He really is. So can we just go on to the next coach? Because
yes.
There are other coaches that I feel if I was Auburn, I would have taken ahead of him.
Sure. Let's move on to Wisconsin. So they went and hired Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. And it had often been talked about like Fickell, he would probably leave for Ohio State or Notre Dame, maybe a Michigan or Penn State. I don't think most people would have considered that he would leave for Wisconsin. But they clearly, like Wisconsin they're trying to do their thing. Luke Fickell, they brought him over. And we can even talk about some of the other things that he's done since he's been hired. But just looking at that hire in general, how do you view that hire for Wisconsin?
Okay, so it's such a great hire. Like, it's so good. Like, I love everything about it. And the reason, what makes a coach a really good coach is not his X's and O's anymore. It's really not. It's who can you hire as assistants. The days of one guy running the defense and maybe he'll have a decent offensive mind, and that's kind of it. Like, it's just that's gone. Those days are gone. What you have to be is you have to be able to recruit coaches as well as players. And like, he's doing a good job. So the proof is in the pudding as far as what kind of assistance can you get. And there's no doubt that Fickell hit an absolute home run. We've talked about this already. There's other
Phil
guys
Longo,
that hit
the offensive
home
coordinator
runs.
from North Carolina. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, that's a home run. We've talked about that in pods past. We think that's going to be excellent. Everything Wisconsin needs to modernize their offense, which, I mean, that's been stuck in an age 40 years ago for a long time. So they're going to get better on offense. There's no doubt. I think that's as good as Wisconsin could have done from a
Mhm.
coaching perspective, from a head coach perspective. I think Fickle was awesome. There was a lot of assumption out there that Fickle goes to Notre Dame or Ohio State. Like that was commonly thought. That was rumored for a while. Like, well, Fickle's just going to wait for the Ohio State job to open, and that's really the only way he'll leave Cincinnati. He took Cincinnati to a playoff, and then he goes to Wisconsin, and I think that's awesome. Like that's as good as they could have done. A grade for that one, I'm going to say it's in the A's for sure.
Mhm.
I'm probably just going to go with a straight A. I don't know if I'm going to go A plus yet. I try to save my A pluses. I don't think I just give out A pluses, but I mean, it's high. It's a
Mhm.
really good hire. I'm going to go with an A.
Yeah, I think depending who's making this hire, I would agree with you probably just on the A. I'm gonna go ahead and give it an A plus. Like there's no way Wisconsin could make a better hire in my opinion.
I agree.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned like Phil Longo hiring that offensive coordinator and kind of Wisconsin is known they've been known as kind of the man ball program for 20, 30 years now. Where they just pound you with good running back after good running back
Mm-hmm.
with behind really good offensive lines. We've really kind of seen the last couple of years, like it feels like their offense has it's kind of I don't not cratered, but it's just not the same, and it's not working as well. And I love the fact that he thought outside the box,
Yeah.
went and got kind of an air raid guy, but also like
Right.
he has run the type of air raid where you can still have great running backs. You can have Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, who both had
Correct.
1,000-yard seasons for him at the same time. And then on top of that, so what do you do when you bring in a new system like that? He also
Yeah.
went and got two quarterbacks in the portal, Tanner
Yeah.
Mordecai from SMU and Nick Evers from Oklahoma, both of whom
Mm-hmm.
were in air raid systems last year. And I just feel like he very clearly knows what he's doing. He brought in a former top 100 recruit, C.J. Williams, who was at USC a year ago. Like, I just think that Luke
Yeah.
Fickell, he has a great chance to take Wisconsin to places that they have never been.
The flip side maybe to that, if you want to throw a negative on there, and it is hard because I do agree with you that this was a great hire, is that maybe the recruiting class wasn't where some of the other guys got the recruiting classes. Wisconsin
Yeah.
finished 12 out of 14 in the Big Ten
Wow.
overall in classes, which they had 14 total commits, and it's really hard, especially when you just have a couple of weeks to throw a class together. That's almost impossible to do. But some of the other guys did it, like
Yeah.
so in that way, like you can, and he's addressed a lot of needs through the portal. You're correct,
Mhm.
like to your point about the quarterbacks. And I don't have any question about how they develop. I really don't. I mean, all you have to do is look at their resume as to like how these guys develop. And look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati had pro players that Fickle recruited to Cincinnati, and like they weren't super highly rated. Like he developed them and he coached them up, and they became better players. He will do the same at Wisconsin, just with a higher overall player.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I guess I'm still saying you still like the 5 stars. I think
Yeah.
5 star too
Sure.
would make you feel good. But no, I'm gonna leave it as an A. I think it's a great hire. Did Yeah, I don't know. Anything else to add to that one?
I don't think so. I mean, we'll continue to talk about it in the offseason. But yeah, Luke Fickell to Wisconsin. I did not see that one coming, and I think that's as good a hire as they could have made.
Right.
Let's move on to kind of one of their rivals in their division. Nebraska hires Matt Rule, who had a lot of success at Temple and Baylor before going to the NFL as coach of the Carolina Panthers and not having the same level of success. Definitely seems like more of a college type of guy. Nebraska, obviously, they've been seriously underperforming for a decade now or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you feel like this is like a seamless? That's not the right word. I won't try to set up the question too much. What are your thoughts on Matt Rule to Nebraska?
Okay, he is the professional in the room, quite literally.
Yeah.
Like he just came from the Carolina Panthers. He came before that, he was with the Baylor Bears, right? He did a great job, turned around kind of what was almost a once dead program, right? And he like Baylor was good, like just
Yeah.
legitimately good while he was there. He had NFL struggles. I don't know if anyone can do a great job with the Carolina Panthers right now. Like I don't know. They just like they weren't terrible. They've just been very mediocre for a while. Like
Mhm.
that's just kind of where they are right now. And I'm not going to dock him any points for that. I think he has real energy. around Lincoln, Nebraska right now. I really do. They're doing well in the portal. He's bringing in big names too. I'm just like we can go through them a little bit, just guys that he's bringing in the portal, but like it's legitimately incredible. Like he brought in Eric Gilbert, the Georgia player, right? The
Yeah.
former 5-star, number one overall tight end in his class, who like hopefully that works out for him. Another guy he brought in, Jeff Sims. You remember the quarterback
Yeah.
from Georgia Tech, kind of the running quarterback from Georgia Tech. That was interesting. There was like, yeah, Chief Borders. He's a linebacker from Florida. Like he had some potential. I don't know. He brought in some guys that it's like whoa. Yeah, I like the hire. Nebraska, and this is an interesting one. Nebraska in the time of NIL, Nebraska has money.
Yeah.
And how much are they willing to put into this, I think is really interesting. I think they will. I really think that they will invest and go all in on this because they have the money to go with any. Like they can spend, they'll spend whatever they need to. um, yeah, and so I think I'm gonna go with. I'm waffling between A minus B plus, somewhere right in there. I'm gonna say it's a B plus. It's a good hire. It's a really good hire. I'm not willing. It's not slam dunk territory though for me. It's not Luke Fickell territory. Yeah. So will they be better? They will, but they are. I don't think he was the best hire in their division.
Yeah. I need to get away from you with your grades. I'm also on B plus for him, and I think it's a really good hire, like you said. You mentioned like if you're comparing to Wisconsin, and I know that Nebraska's been down recently compared to Wisconsin, but like if you go 20 years ago and you say that Nebraska and Wisconsin are going to have an opening the same year, and Wisconsin is going to clearly make the better hire. Yeah, if you're Nebraska and you have all that money to throw around, like clearly they want to invest in the football program.
Right.
What if they had gone and gotten Luke Fickell? Like, shouldn't they have that level of expectation? Now, obviously, they probably couldn't have gotten him just because of where they are.
Right.
But maybe, like, if he went to Wisconsin, you'd have to think that maybe there was a dollar amount where they could have gone and gotten a Luke Fickell or somebody like that. And I like Matt Rule, like I really do. But you kind of said it perfectly. You got out hired by someone else in your division, and so to me, B plus feels about right.
It's a little hard too when the guy in your division goes and I mean gets a candidate that no one even thought possible.
Yeah,
like Fickell to Wisconsin was not something that like oh wow, like yeah, that's commonly rumored. This isn't even a surprise. No, that was a kind of a shocker there because we regarded him so highly. Like
yeah.
I like Fickell is a guy that Auburn should have hired, and more we'll have more on guys that Auburn should have hired here in a second. But like Fickell is like. I feel like the difference between Wisconsin and Nebraska is not that different. It's not that big, not that big of a difference in terms of programs, of just like where they're located, who they have access to, and the resources that they have. They're really good programs, very solid, and have long track records. And they have money. They're in the Big Ten, they have money, they're fine. Rule is a great hire. But Fickell was just like that was the cherry on the top. Like that you couldn't have done better. So and maybe it's the comparison that drops us down because I think if had Fickell not gone to Nebraska, we probably rate Rule as an A minus higher, right?
Possibly,
yeah. What a great hire. That's a great hire. Like who? Yeah, it's hard to do better than that, right? So yeah, for that reason, for other reasons, I'm just gonna hold with what I have, keep them at a B or a B plus rather. I think they did good. They'll be better. Nebraska will be better in the future.
Sure. Okay, one last coach we should talk about, and of course, this is the one that everyone is talking about: Deion Sanders to Colorado, leaving Jackson State, and bringing a lot of his players with him, including his son, Shadur Sanders, the quarterback, and getting Travis Hunter to come and join him there as well when he had very clear interest from a lot of other schools in the Power Five. He also just flipped Cormani McLean, the number one cornerback in the class of 23 from Miami.
Yeah.
So he's the top cornerbacks in the last two recruiting classes are both going to play for Colorado this year.
That's right.
And that's a thing that can happen when you have Deion Sanders, arguably the best cornerback of all time, as your head coach. Now, this is like everyone has an opinion about this hire. I feel like most people probably either think it's just the absolute greatest thing, or they feel like he's just kind of he's all flash, no substance.
Yeah.
Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is. Like, what's your opinion, Ashton?
I'm actually going to let you go first here.
All
I'm
right.
going to like yes, you make your selection first. This one's a tricky one. Like I'm not going to even say what my grade is right now. This one's hard
No.
because you don't really know. Go for it.
Listen, so here's the thing. Colorado was once a proud program. Um,
Yeah.
early 1990s, they won a national title. They went to some other big bowl games. This was a team, a program that put like players in the NFL early, like high draft
Yeah.
picks.
Right.
The last 20 years, well, I'll go 15, because they did. I think they made a, yeah. Anyway, early 2000s they were still okay, but the last 15 years they have been just pretty terrible, quite frankly. They had one 10
Yeah.
win season that sort of came out of nowhere about 5 years ago.
Right.
Colorado is completely. I mean, there's about as big a gap between what they have been and what they are currently as you can find in the Power Five. They
Okay.
One of the worst things you can say about a program is that they are not relevant. And quite frankly, Colorado has not been relevant in a long time.
Yeah.
And Deion Sanders immediately makes you relevant. And I like, what is even the name that Colorado could have hired that would even approach the level of excitement, the level of recruiting, the hires he's made? He brought a Sean Lewis, a sitting head coach at Kent State, to be his
Right.
offensive coordinator.
Right.
I mean, I have to give this an A plus. Like, what? There's nothing close. Like, Carl Durrell was their last head coach. Like,
Right. Yeah.
the gap between the excitement that Carl Durrell brings your program and the excitement that Deion Sanders brings your program
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous. I'm one, like, I'm not even one of these guys that says, yeah, they're going to compete for playoff berths soon. Like, no, I'm not even saying that. But like, don't, like, if they go 5-7 this year,
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
improvement over what they have been. And don't bet against them being a lot better than that in about 2 or 3 years.
Hmm.
Let me have it.
What was the grade?
A plus. If it's Florida State, I'm way more cautious. Like I think, or Auburn.
Yeah.
Like, if Auburn makes this higher, I
Right.
love it because it's a chance, but it's not like a grand slam A plus guaranteed to work out. And this is also not guaranteed to work out, but it's Colorado, man. Like,
Well,
there is nothing they could have done that would have approached this. So I have to give it an A plus because it's Colorado.
in 3 years from now, will Dion be at Colorado still?
Probably not.
And so he's using that job as a stepping stone.
Sure.
It would seem like, right? It's hard. It's hard to rate someone in A plus if they're using your job as a stepping stone. Like the Colorado would be better off getting someone that. Okay, I don't know. That's hard, man, because he is bringing in the talent and he's bringing in the buzz and he's no doubt raising the floor. Even if he leaves in 2 or 3 years, there's no doubt that there will be excitement and there will be players, a level of player that is on Colorado that they did not have right or 6 months ago. Like
Yeah.
that's just a fact. There will be guys there that they didn't have access to 6 months ago, and people will actually know where Colorado is. So, in a lot of ways, I agree with you. Now, okay, like this could go so horribly wrong. Like this could go so. It's an A plus, and it's an A plus. Like Luke Fickle, I had him as an A, and like that's almost a slam dunk. Like Luke Fickle will be at Wisconsin probably for a really long time, unless he gets to go back to Ohio State. If something dumb happens, maybe it does. Unless he gets to go back to Ohio State, he's going to be there for a while, and they're going to be winning 10 games or more for a while. Like you can almost pencil that one in. We don't know what Colorado is going to do. I don't think Colorado's going to be very good next year. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if I don't know if they're going to go to a bowl game. I really don't know if they're going to go to a bowl game. They play some tough teams. Like they have a difficult little schedule there. You just kind of like look into it. Pac-12 is the top end of the Pac-12 is tough. We talked about this last week. They're gonna have some difficult games, man, and it's not gonna go well. It's great you have 2 5-star corners, but like if you can't rush the passer, good luck. Like good luck to you. I need to put a grade on this. and I don't really have one. So like I'm really I could go. There's such a wide range. Like you're kind
Sure.
of throwing darts at a dartboard a little bit. You don't actually know what you have here.
Can I
The,
give you
the
some thoughts
guessing.
before you put your grade out there? Just let you think about it more.
Sure, sure.
Okay, let's just play hypothetical with the Colorado job. Okay, let's say
Okay,
instead of Dion, they hire their next Carl Durrell, and we don't even mention it on this podcast.
I
We just
agree.
assume it's like a C plus.
Yes.
Let's assume that guy probably doesn't last. In 3 years he gets hired. Who's the next hire they make? Probably somewhere along the same level. They hire Deion Sanders. The next
It
guy they
raises the
hire,
floor.
yeah, the next guy they hire will not be Deion Sanders, but people will actually be paying attention to the Colorado job then, and especially if maybe in year 3 they win 10 games. Like it could happen. Like I'm not one of these people that would. Okay, so I've seen a few way too early top 25s that have like them ranked in the bottom end of the top 25 this year. That's
Garbage.
ridiculous.
Garbage.
That's
Yes, it is.
stupid. Like absolutely no. There's not a chance that happens, especially along like, it's really hard to build your team along the lines in the portal, and they've done a lot in the portal. They're still going to have to recruit better offensive and defensive linemen, but he could build something there, and I wouldn't be shocked if several years from now they go 10-2 with him, and maybe he leaves then. Like maybe he gets the USC job or the Florida State job or something like that. At that point, like I mean, you kind of talked about it. The floor will have been raised, and I
Yeah.
believe that Colorado will be better off for having hired Dion almost no matter what happens. Almost no matter what happens, even if he fails. Like,
Right.
here's the thing: I actually live in Colorado. Let's just say it's not exactly a southern state, or even Indiana, where I'm from originally, where you have
Fair
Notre
enough.
Dame and people care about college football, or in Ohio or something.
Right.
People in Colorado root for the Broncos.
Yeah.
and
They do. Yeah.
and if you can be entertained by the Colorado Buffaloes for a couple of years because they hired Deion Sanders, that is all you need. I'm just like I'm sure there's some fans
Yeah.
in the fan base that actually like want to get back to like winning national titles or whatever. That's probably never going to happen. But a huge chunk of the fan base, they just want a little entertainment on their Saturday afternoons if they're even paying attention. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay. I agree with you like 100%. My pushback is that if it goes wrong, I think it's going to go horribly wrong.
okay,
Like it's going to go, the wheels will just come way off the bus and like crash and burn epically. Which is why it's hard to give them an A plus because there's no doubt that you're correct. Like it's absolutely a good thing to have people talking about their university. First off, like
yeah,
what a great job. Like that's what you have to have. They have people talking about it. There's energy there. You have guys showing up. I mean, if the check's clear, which I mean, yeah, knock on wood for that one. But they have guys showing up, which they didn't have and haven't had for forever in my lifetime at least. I know. I 100% agree. Like you're correct. It's very concerning of how bad it could go.
yeah,
So yeah, okay. And the reason why I say it's concerning, it has nothing to do with the talent that he's bringing. He's not going to stop recruiting.
right,
I do think that he's a bit of a he's a little bit more publicity than like
mm-hmm.
he's not. And I just said that you have to be more of a CEO and an energy guy these days, and that's correct. And he did hire a sitting head coach to be the offensive coordinator. Kent State was actually pretty good last year. Ask
Yeah,
Georgia. Like Kent State played us better than TCU. So which I guess everyone played us better than TCU. Anyway, that's not the point. He's getting good guys there, which like I think he is. But how does it gel? Like I have to see it work. There's no concept with all the other guys, with Hugh Freeze, with Matt Rule, and with Luke Fickle. We have seen them be at other big Power 5 jobs. Well, okay, not with Fickle, but like we've seen them have success. Like we have seen actual success that we can hold. We can touch it, feel it. We know that it worked. There's a proof of concept there. It has worked. With him, we don't know. We
right,
don't. It's very new. It's kind of a novelty thing still. You're right. It could be the A plus. I'm holding back just a few because the volatility. I'm holding some caution. I'm going to stay. It's going to be in the B range for sure. I'm going to go with the flat B.
Okay.
I'm willing to be surprised. I am. That's kind of my whole outlook, maybe on a lot of teams this offseason is show me. Like, you want to talk this good game, Texas, kind of the same thing. Show me. Like, you have all the talent. Arch Manning goes there, all the energy. Great. That's fantastic. Show me. Like, you have to beat some of these teams. I think Colorado's going to win 3 or 4 games next year. Like, that might just get me skewered on the message boards. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be that good next year. So, like,
I agree.
I'm willing to be surprised.
Yeah, I like that you have kind of a balanced approach to your grade there, and I respect it completely. I'm generally the type of guy that likes to roll the dice on a coaching hire. That's why I wanted Notre Dame to hire Marcus Freeman a year ago instead of Luke Fickell. I think that Luke Fickell would have been probably just as good a hire, but I like that. I think that you need to roll the dice, and so I like Colorado rolling the dice.
Okay, so Fickell and Longo, or Reese and Freeman. Yeah, you have to choose, like, because head coaches are who they hire as assistants now. That's kind of how that thing goes. I'm just asking, like, a year removed, would you swap for Fickell and Longo right now?
So I'm not sure. I'll say this. I'll say this. I want to see Marcus Freeman actually hire another offensive coordinator, because at some point he will have to. At some point, either Tommy Rees will leave of his own volition or he'll be fired. And I want to see what hire he makes at that point. It was when they hired Freeman to be the head coach, it was kind of like some of the inside reporting was basically, it was like dependent on Rees staying, kind of. Like, if they hadn't had that continuity, they might have waited for Luke Fickell after the playoff just to have a head coach with some experience. The fact that they were hiring a coach that has never been a head coach, they wanted the continuity of the offensive coordinator still being there. And so he's never really hired an offensive coordinator. So I want to see what he does the first chance he has to hire an offensive coordinator.
Well, okay, like, here's my thing. Why didn't he go out and get Kendall Briles? Like, TCU went out and stole
Notre Dame will
Briles
never hire a Briles.
But why?
It won't happen. It's the Baylor history
really.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it. That was his dad. He didn't. Kendall didn't. He was.
Yeah, but he was on staff. You will never see Jeff Lebby or Kendall Briles hired by Notre Dame. Guaranteed.
Jeff Lebby's another one that I admit. Like, okay, yeah, all right, that's interesting.
It's just different, and that's a few things. Like, some people don't realize that with Notre Dame, and I'm not trying to make it sound like Notre Dame's better than everyone else. I'm not saying that. It's just that when you're dealing with the Notre Dame administration, like the university part of it, they care more than Auburn cares about their reputation. Like, just quite frankly, like, and so like you just aren't going to be able to make that higher if you're Notre Dame.
The difference between Auburn and Notre Dame is stark. But no, just one more, and I didn't mean to even get into the whole Notre Dame thing, but like, yeah, and you can go on for forever, like, suggesting names and like what would this guy's offense look like at Notre Dame? It's just like, I do think Notre Dame has a high ceiling. I do. I think they're not accessing it yet. Like, they choose not to go to the third floor. Like, they could. The third floor.
You're right.
The third floor is in the house, but they mainly just live in floors 1 and 2. Like, we just kind of hang out down here. We can go up there, but like, we just choose not to. And yeah, there's a ton of guys out there. Like you mentioned, Lebby. That would have been awesome. A guy I thought was Joe Brady. You remember Joe Brady from 19 LSU? He's a quarterbacks coach now for Buffalo, for like the Bills rather. But like, he seems like he would enjoy coming back to college. Like, that's been rumored. Like, can you get? He'd be a great OC, young guy. Yeah, I don't know. There's a ton of different names you can throw out there, and A&M got themselves one with Bobby Petrino. I'm not saying you do that, but yeah, there's no doubt that you want, like, the way Georgia was different from 2019, 2020 till now was mainly because of Todd Monken. I believe that. Like, the whole offense changed and the play calling changed. It changed to where I couldn't sit there and call it. Georgia was good enough for a couple of years to where I could still call the plays. I knew what was coming, but other teams knew what was coming. They simply couldn't stop it because there's 5 stars on Georgia. And like, now it's different. Like, you're seeing how great that can really elevate you when you have that uniqueness on offense. And I think, I'm just saying that I think Freeman should go for that, I guess, is my point.
Yeah. I think that after this year, like, we'll know this year, because Tommy Rees will have all the tools he needs to have a really good offense. And if it doesn't happen, then I want to see, okay, is Freeman willing to fire this man and hire somebody else, or maybe Reese really turns out to be as great as some people think he is. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, some other portal news. We mentioned Walker Howard a little bit in our last podcast. He did end up committing to Ole Miss, and then Spencer Sanders, the Oklahoma State starter for the last 4 years, is also committed to Ole Miss, and they still have Jackson Dart. Um, what are your thoughts? Like, I guess personally, just really quickly, I'll just say that I like Lane Kiffin. Just he wants better quarterback play, and so he's going to go ahead and grab three guys that and have himself a good old competition.
Right. Do you think Spencer Sanders is any good at Oklahoma State?
Yes and no. Sometimes in the same game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. Walker Howard he's not starting next year. Like, I think we can assume that he's going to be developed. And by the way, if he does stay and Lane stays, if they both stay at Ole Miss, Walker Howard will be really good in 2 or 3 years. Like, he really will. Like, that guy has all the tools. It could really work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's between Dart and Sanders. I mean, this is Sanders' last year. I'm assuming. I think he's in his last year.
I'm pretty sure he started 4 years for Oklahoma State. And the only reason he has eligibility is because of the COVID year.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's right as well. So I would actually, I think he wants a little bit of a dual threat, and Sanders can kind of run, which I thought was interesting. So like, I would almost put Spencer Sanders as like the favorite right now, even though he's maybe he's definitely the least recruited out of them all, and maybe the least upside. But I think he's got that running dynamic that I think Lane really likes. So I thought that was bigger news than Walker Howard. I think Walker Howard's maybe a little bit more long term. No, Ole Miss has some good transfers coming in. Another guy that they signed was the receiver. I think it was Chris Marshall from A&M, like the former 5-star, right? You remember him from last year, like the greatest signing class of all time. I think he was part of. But I like some names like that. That's interesting. Like, the portal is like, it's like you get to do recruiting classes twice. Like, you get are they good at recruiting? Well, no, they're good at the portal. Like, like you're and then some guys are good at both. But I think that was interesting. Anyone that surprised you that stayed, that didn't portal out? Were you, like, from Notre Dame, like, you think you were expecting to lose more?
I think Notre Dame will lose more after the spring season. And that's actually one thing that maybe this is Homer glasses, but like last year Notre Dame barely lost anybody either, and it felt like it was very much like the players wanted to play for Marcus Freeman,
right?
And I think there's still some truth to that. I do think that this spring, like, there will be a lot of position battles, and then you'll see guys leaving after the spring because they clearly lost some position battles there. I don't know that you're going to see a lot of guys leaving Notre Dame because they're just fed up with the coaches or whatever. Like, it feels like a very healthy situation right now as far as players liking their coach. And I think it's, part of that is because he's so new and young.
Right.
But I do think that a lot of the departures you're going to see are going to come after the spring.
Yeah. No, I thought that was interesting too. You can kind of tell a team's chemistry from how many guys stick around. Like, you talk about culture a lot. We all talk about, like, you want to have a good culture. And but like, are you it's okay, everyone's going to have some guys leave. Like, you're not saying that you can't have any, but like, is it just a mass exodus? Like Georgia, I think it's kind of wild that everyone sticks around. Like, it feels like there's guys that are buried on the depth chart that barely get any snaps that are 5-stars, and they just kind of stay there, like, for whatever reason. And we have had some guys leave this past year, and like, that'll be what it'll be. The portal comes for everyone. But like, even Clemson, like, they have guys there that just kind of like stay there. Like, they just don't really leave much. And like, I don't know. I think that's a testament to a lot of teams' culture. Whereas like Arkansas right now, dude,
oh man,
I like Arkansas. I like Arkansas. I like the coaching staff. I like Sam Pittman. I like what he's done there. But man, everyone's leaving. And then like Kendall Briles too. That's tough. Like, we talk about a lot of positive energy. That's a bad vibes team. Like, that's very big negative energy right now in Fayetteville.
One of their assistant coaches on defense, I think it maybe was their linebackers coach. He like resigned / retired, and then later accepted a job with like some way lower level school, like as the same position coach or something. It just feels Yeah, I like Arkansas. I want to like Arkansas, but yeah,
Me too.
it's concerning right now. You did
Yep.
mention Georgia occasionally loses some guys. A.D. Mitchell, one of their
Yep.
receivers, just
Yep.
left and is committed to Texas, I guess. So
Yeah. Oh,
I guess that's kind of the same thing as Jermaine Burton, just wanting to play in a more wide open offense,
I don't know,
or does
man.
he have a better chance to actually succeed at his next stop?
Okay, so here's the thing, and I really hope this is true. And on a like AD Mitchell, by the way, is a Georgia legend. Like he really will
Yeah,
go down. Is
true.
that he's played in 4 playoff games. He's a sophomore. Right? He just finished up his second year. True sophomore.
Yeah.
He has played in 4 playoff games total. That's the max you can play in 2 seasons. He played in every single playoff game that he was allowed to play in. He caught a touchdown in every single stinking one. He caught the go-ahead touchdown against Alabama in the title game last year, the go-ahead touchdown against Ohio State in the playoff in the semifinal game this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like legend, absolute legend. And okay, he does have he has like a little like a daughter in Texas, and
Okay.
on his commitment picture, like you know how they do, like they tweet out their little picture, like I'm committing to wherever. It was a picture of him and his daughter. He was like holding his, like I think it was, yeah, at least the Georgia fans are buying into the fact that like he left because yeah, you wanted to be closer to the family and stuff, which I respect. Like that's what the portal
Sure.
should be for. Like that's actually like a good use for it. So yeah, in that like he was getting all the playing time. Like I don't
Yeah.
he was super productive. He made plays like on the biggest stage. He was going to be drafted really high. Like he probably still will be. So yeah, he's a good dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wish the best. I hate to see him go though. Man, what a legend.
So Texas, this makes their receiver room look pretty legit. If you're bringing in
Nasty.
A.D. Mitchell,
Yeah.
um, assuming Xavier Worthy stays there, there's been some smoke about maybe him transferring, but the early window is closed now. He'd have to wait till this summer. Isaiah Nayer, who was supposed to be a big time receiver for them last year and got hurt in camp. So it feels like Texas now has about as good a receiver room as there is in college football. Um, yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Do you think we see Quinn Ewers take a step up next year?
How could you not? Like they also added Jonte Cook, the 5-star receiver.
Yes.
Um that like he'll be a freshman coming in. I no, I they have a couple of 4-star. I'm just looking through their chart now. Yeah, that's wild, man. I don't know. I think they're going to be dangerous. I will Quinn Ewers. The question I guess just answer the question was, will Ewers be okay? I'm not sure that Quinn Ewers is all that. Like I guess I can just go ahead and say that. Like I'm not really sure.
Hmm.
The arm talent is there sometimes, and then sometimes it's just really not. And or like maybe it's I guess that's decision making. Like he just makes some really dumb throws sometimes, and
Yeah.
like it's he has no he doesn't have good rhythm. Like we can say that. Like Sark, for being a kind of a quarterback guy, an offensive guy, I thought that Ewers would have more rhythm, and sometimes it's just so off. Like it's way off, and he
Yeah.
can't get back on rhythm. So yeah, Arch is just sitting there. I think that's interesting. Arch Manning will just be sitting there waiting. So and at the minimum, we'll say that Arch will have no shortage of weapons when he does, if and when he does start. I think it's more of when
Right.
than if. Yeah.
Yep. All right. One other portal thing. Dante Cephas, one of the top receivers in the country from Kent State, committed to Penn State, which is huge for them.
Yes. Big get.
Um, and then maybe one last thing to just talk about. Jaden Rashada, the borderline 5-star quarterback who was once committed to Miami and then flipped to Florida and
Yeah.
then signed with him, but didn't actually show up on campus. And there's, from what we've been able to gather, it sounds like he was kind of promised a $13 million NIL deal, up to 13 million. You know how the contracts work. You know, if you hit all of
Sure.
these benchmarks or whatever, eventually it could be worth up to $13 million, which feels just wildly high for Jaden Rashada, who's a good quarterback prospect, but is not an Arch Manning or a Dante Moore or
Right.
even a Nico or a Malachi Nelson. Like
Right.
he was definitely that second or third tier of quarterback, and it felt like Florida just wanted to like, let's get a guy that Miami wanted just to make a statement, and
Well,
then the money kind of fell through,
yeah.
and so he has been released from his national letter of intent. He's now looking around a little bit. Any any idea on where he's going to, or maybe
No.
could end up, or like what are your thoughts on the whole situation? Does it feel like Florida just didn't want to lose another battle to Miami?
Maybe, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think that you talk about. I think I said it even earlier on the pod. When your arch rival wins a national championship, especially in the South, when you're like you start doing crazy things. You do.
Mhm.
Your university starts to freak out collectively, and there's a sense of like when you're having a race against someone that's faster than you, and like you're falling behind, and it's like you try to run faster, and like it doesn't always work, and like sometimes you trip and fall down. Like that's kind of what happened to Florida, I think, a little bit. So there's a certain freak out that when okay, your arch rival Georgia went back to back and they're not showing any signs of slowing down. How
Mhm.
do we keep up? Like this is the arms race of college football. This is what this is. How can we possibly keep up? And so we just go offer him whatever, like just whatever number we can tell him, so he'll say yes. And then like woo, like we flipped Rashada from Miami, like good for us. And then yeah, the check doesn't clear, whatever. Where he goes, like he's not going to a big time program. Like I don't think he is. He's probably going to go to. He might go to TCU, and if he does end up at TCU, then good for him. Like I think he'd be developed long term with Kendall Brown, Sonny Dykes. That would be like almost
Yeah.
best case scenario for him. All the other big schools kind of filled their spots,
Yeah.
quarterback wise. They're full, and there's no extra scholarships to hand out right now. And you can't just like I think it's gonna be a little bit of a process.
Mhm.
He may never get his $13 million, like
No.
ever. Like so, well, I'm not just talking about in college. I'm saying,
Right.
like that's a lot of money, and yeah, that might not ever come back. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's a bad kid. Um,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit naive, possibly a
Sure.
little bit naive, because I don't think anybody's getting close to that amount of money.
No.
I like who's getting anywhere. Bryce Young last year made 1 million, and that was eye opening when Saban told us that he made $1 million. Like whoa! And we really think that this guy who hasn't even taken a snap in college is going to get 13. That's astronomical. So yeah, I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't know. What do you think? Is it what you want to know my real fear? Do you want to know my real fear in all of this? The same people that wanted NIL are the people that now or they then wanted playoff expansion, and they got both. And then once they get NIL, and I hope this isn't the same way. I hope they don't do this with playoff expansion, but they get NIL because they threw a little temper tantrum and had to have it. So we gave it to them, and now they're the same ones that are complaining about like it's out of control. It's so out of control. It was like you brought this, like you brought this, and that's worrisome for me. That's what a I'm too invested in college football to see
Yeah.
it go downhill, and like that feels scary to me.
Hmm. It still does blow my mind, like a year and a half later, or almost 2 years maybe, like how the NCAA just kind of like went from nothing is allowed to everything is allowed on NIL. It felt like there was enough
Hmm.
momentum with it. I felt like they would start easing into it, like allow like make money off your YouTube channel, like maybe off your Instagram page, like start with a few little things like that and figure out how to make it work, as opposed to just oh yeah go ahead, well you guys just wanted all this and so here you go, it's right there you go, it's all just out there and it,
um,
I mean it's almost like the NCAA wanted it to fail, and it's clearly just been a mess. I do think for if we want it to be fixed, we might need more stories like Jaden Rashada. Like we might need more things like this to convince schools to get their act together, and I mean the NCAA works for the schools, and so if enough
well,
schools are like we need to fix this, it should eventually get fixed. If you want to talk about what this means for Florida specifically, they I think we probably both feel like Anthony Richardson is a talented quarterback, but wasn't all that great.
right.
But Graham Mertz was worse. Like you're going from Anthony Richardson to Graham Mertz. They're also like their offensive line, which was probably the strength of their offense, is getting just hammered right now. Guys leaving for the NFL, guys
Yeah,
leaving in the transfer portal,
yeah,
and they do have a 5-star quarterback, DJ Lagway, committed in the class of 2024, Texas
yep,
kid.
right.
I'm just saying, like, there's a real chance this Florida thing goes downhill this season. I to me
You
it
think
feels
so?
like the offense could be really bad this year. And does a DJ Lagway decide to stick through it? I mean, signing day is 11 months away. Like, if their offense is trash, does he still go to Florida? Like,
Well,
this is a big deal for Florida.
yeah. Wisconsin's offense is maybe not even fair to judge Mertz on because Wisconsin also had a bad offense. We're going to find out. Like if
Yeah.
Wisconsin comes up and just blows out on offense, okay, they had some talent there. They were just poorly coached, and that means maybe it's good for Mertz, or maybe Mertz is just really not it for Florida. Because you're right, he's going to be the starter. Like there's no one else. Like they don't have another guy to go to right now, and like unless you're thinking Jack Miller still, but that hasn't worked out. So he's probably the guy. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that, and I've thought this for a while, and I think it's becoming very apparent now that when your arch rival wins either head to head or wins national championship, it like your university will almost start to implode if you have like that kind of. I think that's what happened to Michigan for years. I
Mm.
think like Ohio State having all that success against them, it eventually starts to like you start to almost implode, and then you start making dumb decisions in the game against them. Like it's just it becomes very very difficult. I think, and I think that's maybe where Florida's at. I agree with you. It could go downhill. I have a little bit more faith in Napier. I think he will have a bounce back year. I really do. I think they're going to run the ball. They have some really good running backs and they have some good offensive linemen. I think they're going
Mm.
to be physical and run the ball. And you can win 8 games doing that. You can. And if you're 8-4, hard to say. Like that's not a terrible disappointment. Like you're still building. So if you're 8-4 with Graham Mertz as your quarterback, like you're still building. So yeah, I'd push back maybe a little bit on the Florida stuff. I agree with you. It could. Yeah, I don't know. We have to just to see it. I have I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I do think that I really like the hire of Billy Napier, and it feels like Florida wants to be committed to football the same way that Georgia is.
Correct.
It does. It also feels like maybe they're not that they're spinning their tires a little bit. It feels like
Of
they're kind
course.
of spinning their tires,
No doubt.
and this next year I think is very important for them.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I agree. I think there's a lot of teams out there doing it. Can we also just can we just come to this point and just agree that we talked a little bit about Ohio State, Michigan. If and kind of on the same point of it, your arch rivals beating you, but if Michigan beats Ohio State, Ryan Day will be looking for a new job this next year.
I wouldn't bet against it. Yeah, that would make sense to me.
Yeah. I think that's crazy. I think that's wild. Like he could go 11-0 going into that game, lose that game by a field goal, and then get fired. Like I think that could happen.
That's
And
true.
like that's wild to me. I respect it. And it's something that needs to be like I would make that change, but it is still crazy. That's still
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
Okay. Any thoughts on anything else? NFL draft or anything like that?
Will Levis, can we just do our okay? You said you
Sure.
saw a mock with him going number 1 overall. Can we just
I
talk about
saw a
that?
mock with the Colts, my team, by the way, trading
Yeah.
up to number 1 and taking Will Levis. I just want to say that if that happens, I will probably be even more of a college football fan than I currently am, as opposed to pro. Um,
Please
oh,
let it happen.
oh,
Let it happen, Lord, please.
no. Why are you wishing this evil on me?
Because it would be awesome.
It
You
would
can't tell
just
me
not be awesome.
what would the podcast be like after that happened, and you have to come on here and explain
Oh,
that.
well,
Hey,
at least
dude, no, I told
it
you last pod episode, like I'm going to become the Will Levis fan here. I think he's very good against the blitz, and he has good size. I don't know if you've heard about his size.
I
He's got
have.
the prototypical size.
Next, you're going to tell me he has a good arm.
He's great arm. It's a fantastic arm, and he's mobile. He's also mobile. Yeah, mobile.
I think the long play there might be if we take Will Levis, then it could put us in good position to take Caleb Williams a year from now.
Are you tanking? You guys are tanking.
Except that if they trade up to number 1, they might include their first round pick from next year. So,
oh, true. Oh, I didn't even. Oh,
yeah. Anyway, I hope that doesn't happen. I have one other question though, like about the NFL draft. Just what is your opinion? Because a year ago, all the way too early 2023 mock drafts, we saw Jackson Smith and Jigba going in the top 10. And to
not even
me,
first round.
yeah, to me it feels like a weak receiver draft. Like there's some guys
Yes.
there, but it's not amazing.
No, that's right.
And you're
That's right.
seeing him go like right at the end of the first, maybe beginning of the second, and he didn't
Hmm.
play this year.
Right.
What what am I
I
missing?
mean,
Because to me it feels like he would probably almost be my first guy off the board, even though he's kind of a slot, which big deal.
yeah.
Like he's a receiver. He's great.
No, I agree. I am looking at one right now that has him going 26 to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
But he's behind like Quinn Williams from TCU. You remember
Mm-hmm.
him? Jordan Addison, another one, is they had them going, those two going ahead of him. Uh, he's definitely fallen, like possibly late. He might sneak into the late first, but it looks more likely like the early second. Um, I think that's what happens after an injury, like a season. He was never a burner, right? Like he was never that super speedy guy.
Yeah.
He did have great moves, and like yeah, maybe they're concerned about some of the twitch stuff. I don't know. NFL scouts, it makes no sense to me. Smith and Jigba was productive, and like
Yeah.
at some point, who cares how you do it? But like, can you do it? Like, are you productive? And yeah, I think scouts will oftentimes fall in love with the size a little bit. Like, can you play football? Like, are you good at getting open? And if you're good at getting yeah, like maybe we'll draft
Yeah.
you if you're good at getting open. And yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes you will have yeah, like sometimes a Tyrann Mathieu, like remember him from
Mm-hmm.
LSU, like he falls down that I think he got drafted like what was it, this third or fourth round, and like he starts playing in the NFL and it's like holy cow, I was like well, like yeah, like we could have told you that, like that guy was a stud. He just happened to
Yeah.
be 5'7", and so we thought that he couldn't play. So yeah, I don't know. It can be very frustrating for us college fans looking at these mocks. Like at least we have Bryce Young going number one in most of them. Like we can just agree
Yeah.
objectively that Bryce Young was the best player in college. Now, does that
Mm-hmm.
mean he'll be the best in the pros? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But he was the best in college. He was not too small. And he played in the
Mm-hmm.
SEC. That's against defensive linemen that are future NFLers. He played against big guys, and he was just fine. He balled
Yeah.
against all of them. So yeah, I just we'll just come together. We'll table the will stuff until next week, and we'll just come together and say that Bryce Young should be going number one. Hey, by the way, who do you have going number one next year? You said Caleb Williams. I'm guessing.
I think it's probably Caleb Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May is number 2.
Oh, I didn't think about. Is he eligible?
Yeah, next year.
Is he really?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, no, I like that. Wow, I like that one a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think the quarterbacks right now, the mocks have it's like Bryce Young, and then you'll have like Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. You'll see up there. Yeah, Miles Murphy's commonly up there. Let's be honest, the quarterbacks are going early.
Yep.
CJ Stroud is not dropping very far. It's probably going to be quarterback to start, probably with some trades. Like we're probably going to have to throw in some trades in there. Yeah, teams freak out about quarterbacks, and they just go like they just lose their mind, and they'll trade whatever to get one, and it's probably going to be quarterbacks in the first 3 picks. I think that's what'll happen.
I think it'll be 2 quarterbacks, and then probably I think it is the Cardinals that have the 3rd pick. They'll probably take like a Will Anderson or Jalen Carter,
Yeah,
and then I think you'll see a quarterback either at 4 to the Colts, or if they trade to 1, then you'll see a quarterback go again at 5 or 6.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also say too, like we can agree on Bryce Young. I would also be perfectly okay with a team taking CJ Stroud number 1. Like I could totally
Yeah.
see that.
Right.
But those should be the first 2 picks. Like let's just be real. It should be those 2
No,
guys, and then about
that's right.
3 rounds later it should be Will Levis.
Fair enough. Well, give me like one name, just like kind of a sleeper name that not get mentioned a lot that you watched that you think will pop off. Like you just saw him and it's like that guy's a stud. He will be a stud at the next level.
Well, we've talked some about Deuce Vaughn, and I think I sent you a little mock today of him going like the third round or something. To me, like that would be the perfect running back to take. Like, don't draft a running back in the first round. Maybe like if you have everything else you need, like maybe you take a Bijan Robinson. But if you really want like to take a running back, take Deuce Vaughn in the 3rd round, and he won't just like he won't just run the ball. He's also going to catch the ball out of the backfield and make 3 linebackers miss, and 50 yards later he's in the end zone. Like, just saying. So that's one thing. And you mentioned, sorry, we were talking about the receivers a little bit ago, and Quentin Johnston from TCU is kind of considered the top guy on the board.
Right.
I'm a little worried about his hands. I feel like I saw him drop just a few too many balls over the year, and I guess that could possibly be corrected, but that's just that would be another reason why it doesn't make sense to me why Jackson Smith and Jigba has slid so far. Like I just feel like he's the guy I would trust.
Like I would take Jalen Hyatt over Quentin. Like
Maybe
for
yeah,
me, Jalen Hyatt was a better player, playing against better competition and got open more often. Like he beat dudes regularly and good players. Like
yeah.
they weren't scrubs. Whereas, yeah, I agree with you. I think Smith and Jigba maybe a little bit low. Jalen Hyatt, I think also maybe a little bit low as receivers. But Jahmyr Gibbs is another name to look at. He's not being taken very
Right.
high at all right now. That guy was awesome at
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. And he was awesome at Georgia Tech before. So I like him a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got to get out of here. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks everybody for listening. Have a great week, and God bless you all. Colts, don't take Will Levis #1. Thank you.